Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weeb from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after the second straight win for the Winnipeg Jets, coming off an 11-game losing streak now. Back-to-back wins, capitalizing on two struggling teams coming rolling in into Winnipeg. Up front, it was a travel day for me. I didn't get to see all of the game. I saw the third period. So why don't you hop in to my Toyota and we'll go on the Jim Pattison Toyota on region opening drive. And I'll tell you what I can see before I start telling you what I can infer from the rest of the game. You know, I went back, watched the highlights, saw some of the goals going in. Definitely some themes with the way the Winnipeg Jets are scoring right now that are worth exploring. But I'm just going to start with the third period because what I saw from that third period harkened back to what we saw from the Winnipeg Jets of last year. And the idea that the Jets got better and better as the game went on last year. And I think it's pretty evident that that's what we saw in that period. The shots that were taken by the New Jersey Devils in that period were way. If you remember, I did a story a couple of years ago about how it's not last year, it's the year before, but Connor Hellebuyck was facing shots that were 32 feet or something like that on average out from the net. This is what we saw in this third period for the most part. Other than that late push at the end of the game, I didn't really think Connor Hellebuyck was challenged. And that's a good thing if you're the Winnipeg Jets. If you've been blowing leads and if you've been putting your goaltenders in bad spots, you want to make sure that you put them in the very best spot. And I thought that for, a goaltender that needed a win, 10 straight losses, the Winnipeg Jets went out and did a really good job of putting Connor Hellebuyck in a good position to close out that game, but also doing it by pushing on the other end as well. And what I saw was the Winnipeg Jets getting up ice. And what I mean by that is every time they moved the puck, you could see there was a stark contrast in the styles of the Winnipeg Jets and the New Jersey Devils. What I saw was the New Jersey Devils, even when they were trailing in this game, kind of protecting home base, getting the puck out, and there'd be one, maybe two Devils heading up, and they'd be heading into 2 or 3 Winnipeg Jets players. They just weren't giving themselves much of an opportunity to outman the opposition up ice, and that's what the Winnipeg Jets did so well in that goal, and a great play by Josh Morrissey. But being that trailer, that second layer of offense coming in, found himself some wide open space, knew how to use that space. And then back to the kind of idea of what we saw in that game, and not just in that game, in the couple previous games, the Winnipeg Jets finding a different kind of offense that is really something that it kind of baffled me this year for a team that has had such a hard time scoring. I'm talking to anyone out there who's played hockey before. If you have had a hockey coach talking to you and you've been in a slump, what do they tell you when you are in a slump? Go to the net, get to the net. And that's what the Winnipeg Jets have been doing really well in the last number of games. Jonathan Toews, a beneficiary, Tanner Pearson, a beneficiary. And now all of a sudden you get one of these wins where the Winnipeg Jets are able to kind of outscore their problems in the game, but get some depth scoring going so that they're not entirely relying on their very best guys. You want to build confidence. Confidence comes from the idea, especially, if you're Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor and players like that. Confidence comes from the idea that if you're not at your best, you're still going to be taken care of. And what that means, I'm not talking about the team as a whole. I'm just talking about the idea that if the top line doesn't score, you're done for, right? And the last couple of games, last 3 games, and you know what? It extends beyond that because Lowry had a big goal a number of games ago when it still resulted in a loss for the Winnipeg Jets. I believe that was the Edmonton Oilers game. But I think what happens is confidence can grow when you start to feel like, well, hey, this line could do it, and this line could do it, and this guy could do it, or this line could do it. So when you're getting a game-winning goal, coming from a guy like Tanner Pearson, that's something that you can just kind of feel. You can feel that it's going to be you can just feel that there's a little bit more of a looseness, a little bit more of an easiness around a team because there's different ways of winning. Jared Bednar was talking about it, and it just made me think of the Winnipeg Jets from last year. But Jared Bednar was talking after the game that they played, their last game, about having a team that can win in different ways. And that's what the Winnipeg Jets haven't had. How can the Winnipeg Jets win? Well, this season, it's basically been if their first line goes off. That's how they can win hockey games. It hasn't been through goaltending the way it has been in years past. It hasn't been through suffocating defense. It hasn't been through, being able to clamp down and shut down the other team when they need to. Hasn't been like they had last year where they could score their way back into games. You need to have different ways to win, and you don't have different ways to win if you have just one line going. So the depth clearly is a big change here. But I think the most important thing for me here in this, I talked off the top of the show about the Winnipeg Jets winning back-to-back games for the first time. I believe it's since, middle of November or something like that. But it's also the first time they've won a tight game. Now, some of you will say, well, what's the big deal? Like they won 5-1 against the Kings last game. They won 5-1 against the Capitals. They beat the Nashville Predators 5-2 at the end of November. Games like that. I think it was 5-1 that they beat the Buffalo Sabres as well. The importance of this game for me is outside the last minute where they really did get pressured. And I thought, their composure was starting to slip at that point. This is the first game since the Calgary Flames that they beat them in overtime, that the Winnipeg Jets have found themselves in a tight game and won. So it's bordering on 2 months, and you're not going to get very far if you can't be the team that finds a way to come out on top in a tight game. Because there's only so many nights you're going to get those blowout victories. And so I don't think it's a fluke that when the Jets have been winning, it's been the kind of games where they catch a team early and they go up in the score, and then you get that other team kind of opens their risk profile, starts making mistakes. You put more in their net and kind of get that little bit of it's when things are tight. It's when things are, the teams are still kind of on even footing. That's where the Jets have slipped so far. So this is the first example for me in a long time of the Jets doing the right things, shutting things down defensively, but doing so and still finding a way to push offensively in that third period. They owned the third period. Ken can talk a lot more about what happened in the first two periods, but the third period is where this game is won. And it's won, honestly, it's won in a style that works with the Winnipeg Jets. And the one thing I will say is I still don't see a team that has that ability to forecheck like they did last year, the Jets. But what I did see was things that reminded me of last year's, making it difficult to get through the neutral zone clean, to get shots off on Connor Hellebuyck. Like I said, I counted, I think, like 4 or 5 floated shots from distance that he was handling in that third period. That's about as tricky as it got outside of the very last 2 minutes of that period. So the Winnipeg Jets style won them this game. Their compete won them this game. But the fact that when all things were equal, they were the better team at the right time of the game, which they haven't been for a long time, but also that they got better as that game went on. That's my take on the whole thing for the Jim Pattison Toyota on Region opening drive. And just wanted to say this January, it's time to Toyota Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent. Finance the new 2026 BZXLE all-electric SUV from $158 weekly for 60 months at 1.49% with a $5,599 down payment. But hurry, the offer ends February 2nd. Visit Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent for a test drive today. All right, time to bring in the man, that man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny.
Whoa!
Kenny, great to see you, and great. Yeah. Yeah. The mic's not even muted. Great to see you, and great to see you looking so good, my friend. I always love the blue combo. It's bold. It's something bold, more bold than Renny could ever pull off. But you're a dapper looking man. And of course you can pull it off. And of course you can pull it off, that boldness, because you headed on down to Vittorio Rossi, who teach you how to be bold without being too loud or too, whatever it is. They've got that je ne sais quoi down at Vittorio Rossi. So if you're looking for that je ne sais quoi, head on down to Corydon Avenue, walk into Vittorio Rossi, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up right. Ken, I've covered off a good chunk of the third because it's about all I saw of this game. You can take the whole thing, maybe start on your take on how the Jets took over this game in the third period, and then kind of rewind it to where they put themselves, how they put themselves in that position through the first two periods.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, quite frankly, Sean, this is two teams in a pretty similar predicament in terms of teams with high expectations that have been floundering a lot lately. Yes, the Jets had the benefit of, having an important victory for them on Friday, and the Devils have been kind of, quite frankly, reeling. Sean got smoked 9-0, and had off ice drama to go with the rest of the flow here, with Dougie Hamilton being a healthy stretch here today, JP Barry sounding off publicly here. So, in terms of the Jets, as you mentioned, first two periods, there were certainly, first period was pretty flat. It was a, Sunday matinee special, and neither team really getting much cooking. Second period was more frantic. Back and forth, lots of goals, defending optional on occasion, goaltender interference challenge, pucks bouncing off the crossbar where you think it's barred down and it really sticks around, goes in off a guy. Simon Nemec shot off his arm. Nino Niederreiter tackled in the crease. The rare Jake Allen covered Nino Niederreiter, who covered the puck. So it was
Right.
one of the weirdest plays that you'll see. I guess that was in the third, but anyways, that was when the whistle. It just was so bizarre. You're like, well, how did that stay out? Well, actually, it hits Niederreiter's stick, and then it's underneath him because he gets hit from behind, and Allen doesn't know what to do. He thinks the only way that he can stop it from going in is to cover Niederreiter. So, in terms of the third period, Sean, Jets were pretty sound until the 6-on-5. I think that was a little hair on fire-esque. And
yes,
Sean, quite frankly, if Arseny Gritsuk does not shoot the puck wide, maybe we may be having a different conversation currently.
Yes.
But at the same time, you also don't want to overreact, because as you mentioned, this is one of the few times we've seen since November where the Jets were able to actually be pretty sound defensively and not sit back in kind of a defensive shell and let the other teams dictate where things were at. Jets outshot New Jersey 9-6 in the third. And after a second period where New Jersey outshot them 13-5. Now, again, shots and goal are not always the be all end all, because as you mentioned, there's the odd flipper that's going in here that isn't really dangerous. But
yeah,
I thought the Jets were much more sound in their structure in the third, and they were able to impose their will. And as you also talked about, for a Jets team that had trouble scoring, guess what? They went to the blue paint a bunch of times and were rewarded for it, right? So that was important for them. But again, as you mentioned, the most encouraging thing, if you are a member of the Jets and you've just gone through a, very frustrating 11-game winless skid, you're thinking that the last two games there were a little bit more signs of life. As you mentioned, there were, not straying from structure, much more sound. You're getting contributions throughout the lineup. But Sean, you're right. The most important thing to me, what I saw, is that the Jets looked comfortable in what has been an uncomfortable situation for them. They have not been delivering when it matters most. In those 1-goal games, they were not getting that extra breakout pass, that extra stop, that extra cross ice, interruption, that killed play at the blue line, that dumped in puck that had to get deep. They hadn't been doing any of those things. But in this game, they were much better at a lot of them. And, that's why the Jets won consecutive games for the first time since November 15th and 18th, which is wild to say out loud. And Sean, Cole Perfetti said it didn't seem real. Like it didn't seem like that could be possible. And that's someone who's going through the season and the struggles within it. So yeah, I mean that you got to win. You got to be comfortable in 1-goal games, and if you're not, you can't win. I mean that's Scott O'Neill said it the other day. I mean that's the bottom line. If you can't get comfortable and execute when the game ratchets up, you've got no chance.
I just wanted to go right off the bat here and hand out the Flame and Comfort the hot take of the game. Matthew Hyman says, "Let up for McKenna," which is the worst one of these I've ever heard in my life. Like that, you gotta be creative with like "let up for McKenna" hashtag. No, like maybe like hashtag like McCann for McKenna or something like that. Like it's got to be a little more creative. You just can't be like it. Hashtag let's get last place and get to the bottom of the standings for McKenna. You got to be more creative than that, Matt. I know. And I believe, was it Matt who just came off of winning the hashtag the keg save of the game? So listen, from one very prestigious award to this is the one that you kind of want to avoid here on this night. So do better, Matt. Do better. And if you do, you won't be winning the Flame and Comfort hot take of the game like you've won this game. The hot take, of course, brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth-related. After 50 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort has moved to 1465 St. James Street, and when you get down there, you're going to find it is one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes to keep that warm feeling inside. You can visit Flame and Comfort, and they will take care of it for you. Okay, I want to read the scoring line to you here because it is a very unlike the Jets this season scoring line with points from the likes of Iafallo, Niederreiter, Samberg, continue on to the likes of Jonathan Toews, Cole Perfetti. Then you get a name we know a little bit more in Gabe Vilardi, but Cole Perfetti getting a 2-point game. That's a little bit more out there. Josh Morrissey getting into the fray. And of course, Tanner Pearson and Koepke. Like this is the ultimate Jets depth scoring game. Clearly the best Jets depth scoring game of the year that they've had so far. They earned the Pristine Roofing wake-up call last time we did the podcast in their last game. We're going to give it to them all over again because they woke up in a really big way. So you know what that means. Time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing call at a 1-204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place for all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. Give your home the Pristine Roofing and Siding wake-up call. It will look just as good as the Jets depth scoring did on this day. So Ken, for you, we touched a little bit on it there. I think, the main part of this is finally getting that get to the net mindset. But what has the Winnipeg Jets depth scoring all of a sudden seeming like they've figured it out the last couple of games?
And it was critical for today, Sean, because quite frankly, that was one of the least productive games we've seen from Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, quite frankly. And again, not to be Debbie Downer here, but
saying the truth, speaking the truth, man.
That's what we're here for. The Jets needed their secondary scoring today. Yes, Alex Iafallo got a goal, but there was not a lot cooking here for 55 and 81 in the game, Sean. Mark Scheifele, 2-shot attempts, 31% in the circle in just under 20 minutes of play, on for 3 even strength goals against. Kyle Connor on for 2 even strength goals against, 2 shots on net, 6 shot attempts. But the depth scoring was tremendous in this game. Alex Iafallo, he got one by, going to the net, second effort. He's a guy that, his shot goes in off the hand of Simone Nemec. Tanner Pearson, 2 goals and 3 points in the last 3 games. Game-winning goal today. Fourth line, GWG. Sean, we hadn't said that very often this year, that's for sure. He deserves credit. He's got 6 goals now. Even Tanner joked that there's a lot of speed with Danny Zhilkin and Cole Koepke out there, so he's doing his best to keep up. Well, Pearson's found another level here. He's been able to contribute, doing a nice job. He had a nice stretch on the third line with Adam Lowry, and now he's really starting to get cooking with Koepke and Zhilkin. Cole Koepke, Sean, we talked a lot about him this year. for a team that wants to get faster and harder to play against. Koepke needed to get a little bit of offense going in order to stay in the lineup. Now that he's been in the lineup, he's got points in 3 consecutive games as well. And even though Zhilkin doesn't have a point yet, Sean, Zhilkin looking more and more comfortable in that fourth line center role. He wasn't necessarily as noticeable today with his speed bursts, with his, playing for the third time in 4 days here, but I still liked his game. He was sound defensively, did a nice job, just over a minute, I think, on the penalty kill again today. I love the fact that he's getting used in that situation because it's an area they had to be better at, penalty killing. And here's a guy with some speed, bringing some juice, with some good reads. And it allows the fourth line player a chance to get moving and get involved in the game when there's not a ton of fourth line shifts. But again, those guys are seeing more ice time, doing a nice job. And Sean, Nino Niederreiter went through a long stretch, 17 without a point. Now he's got points in consecutive games, just about had a goal. So he's getting himself going. And that I believe brings him to 497 in that chase for 500 points. So he's doing a nice job, and we know he usually produces against the Wild, Sean. So if he can get anything cooking against the Islanders, another one of the teams, and the team that drafted him, he's going to have 2 chances here this week to maybe get to the 500 point mark in his career, which is a pretty impressive round number. But yeah, a lot of Jets who had gone through rough patches, and sorry, I'll get to Perfetti in a second here, doing a nice job. Taves now 6 points in 9 games, goals in consecutive games. So for all the folks who, again, he needs to do it for a long stretch of time, but for all the folks who were wondering about whether he was going to retire or not, I think their tune has changed a little bit here. So, and again, that second line, Sean, since Velarde moved to the line, is doing a nice job of getting that secondary scoring punch happening on a consistent basis. And Cole Perfetti's part of that. 4 assists in the last 2 games, starting to feel better. Backhand, unfortunately for him, it's not bar in instead of, bar off the crossbar and straight down. Taves having to bang it home, but Perfetti's starting to play with some more confidence, and that's, Scott O'Neill said it, and he's 100% right. This is the Perfetti the Jets were expecting going into the year, and this is the kind of player that Cole knows he can be when he's at his best.
Wanted to switch up here. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm not doubting that it was this. Pickle 204 says another sub 900 performance from Connor Hellebuyck. Concerned, he asks. Coming off 10 straight losses, I've had some conversations with some people on it. Sure. I actually think it's, before that, I talked a little bit about it on the last show, and I've thought more about it. And I know some people were texting me about it and messaging me about it, but I do honestly think it's odd. It's odd that Connor Hellebuyck had gone 10 games without a loss. I had one person that I was talking to say you should be exempt from a 10-game losing streak if you've got an MVP in the crease. I thought that was pretty wise words to say in that situation. This looked to me like one of those games where the Jets were like, hey, we've got you covered, and maybe that'll even win. They got you covered, where they were like, we need to get this guy a win. I think it's important that they did. But given how he's played here, and like I've said, my analysis of Connor Hellebuyck is very similar to the analysis that we had of Comrie when Hellebuyck was gone. Like, a lot of the goals that are let in are team goals, right? This is what happens to your goaltenders when your team doesn't play as good defensively around you. And the look of it is stark when you went from being the best defensive team in the league for not just last year and the year before, and then to starting to have these breakdowns. So it looks stark because you're not used to seeing that. You're not used to seeing the goals going in. So by no means is it. I'm saying what has happened to Mike Comrie, what has happened to Connor Hellebuyck over the stretch of this year has a lot to do with the team around them. But what I would say about Connor Hellebuyck that I would say is different about Comrie is that throughout his career, Connor Hellebuyck has shown the capability to elevate his game so unbelievably high that sometimes it doesn't matter if your team is playing poorly around you. I think he won his very first Vezina trophy with his team playing poorly defensively around him. We just have not seen that level from him. And I wonder, Ken, because I personally saw it before he headed into surgery as well. All that said, if he's heading into surgery, maybe his knee had started bothering him at some point. Maybe his knee is bothering him on the back end of it. What effect do you think at this stage Connor Hellebuyck's knee and his surgery has had on his play going into and coming out of that surgery?
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to know, but our job is to speculate it based on what we've been seeing. And I mean, the facts are that his save percentage is down 24%. So, I mean, the fact that he was playing through it at the beginning and now is coming out playing through it at now, I mean, I think it has to be a consideration that it could be a factor here. Like we've said, the environment definitely not as good in front of him. That's obvious. But I don't think it's as simple as saying, Hellebuyck isn't 100%, so he's not producing at the same level. But today, I don't really see today as a concern. Back to the original question. I mean, one of the goals is a rebound goal where Mark Scheifele and Neil Pionk gets a 2-on-2 in front of Hellebuyck. And, it looked like Pionk had his man. Scheifele didn't tie up Heischer. Heischer bangs it home. The first Cody Glass goal is a beauty pass from Jack Hughes on the back door, offside redirection. That's a good goal. That's not I didn't see anything preventing Hellebuyck from pushing across. He hates to be scored on, so I mean, I'm guessing he would say he should have had it, but I don't see that as a bad goal, and neither will he, or neither will Wade Flaherty. And on the third one, Glass's shot goes off, Dylan DeMello goes in, so I didn't see Hellebuyck fighting the puck at all today. I thought he looked pretty steady in the pipes. Someone sent me a note saying he should have had the first one. I'm like, well, he stopped the shot by Luke Hughes, and the coverage in front of him wasn't there. So for me, I actually didn't see any concerns with Hellebuyck's game. And I think the most encouraging thing for Connor is that his team was, built a lead in the third early, didn't sit back, but he also was there to be ready when called upon. So, but then bigger picture, I mean, the Jets, I think it's fair. We've talked about this for years. I mean, the Jets can't survive with league average goaltending. They need above average to elite goaltending, and there's additional pressure on the goalie in that scenario. But Connor Hellebuyck loves having that pressure on him. So I just think the best way to put it is that I think Hellebuyck has another level to reach. And again, I think it may be more challenging given the health that he's dealing with. But I think Connor's best hockey is still to come for this season.
This is the one thing.
Sorry, it needs to be better. He needs to play his best hockey down the stretch.
Oh God. Well, and I mean, the thing is the ticking, not ticking time bomb, but the clock ticking down on this is the Olympics, because look, I don't know how, listen, Team Canada went in last year and took their goaltenders. And I know the Team Canada goaltending situation doesn't look like the Americans goaltending situation, which looks far more solid. And they went with Binnington, and then what they found and what Jets fans found last year when they got into the playoffs is that Binnington, the reason he makes that team, the reason why he made it again, even though his numbers look atrocious, and even though if you were watching his game and watching St. Louis games doesn't look good, is because this is a guy that time and again has shown that when you need it most, he can elevate his game and he can pop up and do those kind of things, right? So not saying that, Connor Hellebuyck not playing well down the stretch would cost him the starting job in the crease. But that said, a 10-game losing streak catches people's attention, right? And that may be what is at stake here right now. It's like, I know everyone here, and there's people who are holding out hope for the Jets to make the playoffs, and good on you for keeping that kind of faith alive. Some other people are going to be okay with how things are going because they want the tank, but what Connor Hellebuyck is playing here for, everyone's playing to make the playoffs. They're going to continue to do that. It's not in the DNA of the Winnipeg Jets to wave the white flag and step out of the way for this season. So they're going to keep pushing. But don't tell me that's not in the back of the mind. And don't tell me that some of the decisions that were made about the timing of Connor Hellebuyck's surgery didn't have something to do with the Olympics going forward. So that means a lot. And that's the clock that's ticking in the background as he's trying to get up to a place where if you want to say I should be in the crease ahead of Ottinger or I should be in the crease ahead of Swayman, it can, like, put it this way. I don't see how, if this continued for Connor Hellebuyck, and this is what we saw from Connor Hellebuyck now until the end of the month and heading into February, how there wouldn't be a big question mark for Team USA at that stage, especially because you can take a look at the playoffs last year. And if you want to build it on that, because that's how Canada picked it, right? Canada picked Binnington, not because of where he was or where his game was or how it was floating. Sorry about that. He gets picked. He gets picked because of what he's shown in the past. And the problem for Connor Hellebuyck is you kind of need, I would think, one or the other. You need to be playing lights out hockey right now, like he was last year, going into Four Nations in the middle of a season that won him a Hart Trophy. Or you need to show that when the chips are on the table, that you're the best guy on the ice. And he wasn't able to do that last year. He wasn't able to do that against Binnington in the playoffs, and he wasn't able to do that against Ottinger in the second round either. And his playoff pedigree before that is not the same. So right now, the way that the Dallas Stars are playing, and the way that Ottinger played in the playoffs last year, to me, he gets the nod. So there needs to be some time for Connor Hellebuyck to start getting his game underneath him here, if you're thinking outside of the Winnipeg Jets situation, because I don't know about you, Ken, and you can weigh in. But it's hard not to look at this and think that something's off with Connor Hellebuyck. And the final point that I will make, because someone had said this, Tracy O had said this. Let me just find Tracy O's comment here. He says about Connor Hellebuyck, he's not 100%. I said it in the illegal curve chat. If you watch the third goal, you can see him try to push across and get up, and his knee collapsed. I mean, if he's not 100%, the one thing I would say about this is, what the heck are the Winnipeg Jets doing playing him in 11 of their last 12 games if he's not 100%? Maybe it's a mental thing that can happen when it comes to surgeries. If it's actually a physical thing, you would think Connor Hellebuyck, who is very well understands his body, either thinks I just need to build my strength back up, so I need volume, even if it's not looking great at the time. But you have to wonder if the Winnipeg Jets at some point should be maybe managing this in a way where Eric Comrie gets a few more games than he's got.
Yeah, just quickly, I mean, just on the U.S. side, Sean, I mean, Jake Ottinger has got a 900 save percentage, and Jeremy Swayman has a 903 save percentage. So even though Hellebuyck has not been at his, MVP type of numbers, they're pretty much similar. All three guys. Ottinger, 276 goals against, 900 save percentage. Swayman, 903 save percentage, 285 goals against average. So, for all the people that are saying that it's obvious that Hellebuyck's not going to be the number one, and no, I'm not saying that you're that. I think that these guys are still kind of in an open competition, and how the next 4 weeks is basically going to determine who gets the number one job. I think Hellebuyck could still be the front runner, but I agree with you. I think that if health is a question mark, and if Hellebuyck is not as sharp as normal, it's kind of left it open for the field in order to have a conversation that there are other alternatives. But I still think that he's going to be the number one guy. But again, let's see how this month goes.
I agree with that point, but I will say this. But last year, one of the things that was really, really trumpeted about Connor Hellebuyck was his win stats, right? And one of the things that has always been trumpeted about Connor Hellebuyck is the timeliness of his saves and the big game performances and all those different kind of things. And that can't be argued this year. You could argue that in favor of Ottinger and to a lesser degree Swayman. You can't do that this time around. Anyone who's trying to do that, and to me, if I'm being honest, I think that those are some of it's what I was poking fun at the beginning of the last podcast. The idea that I think a lot of the analysis that's fallen around Connor Hellebuyck over the years is what I call the because of Connor Hellebuyck. Why the Jets win that game? Because of Connor Hellebuyck. And it started to be a thing where there wasn't a lot of thought put into, well, he only saved 2 shots in that first period against the Washington Capitals. Maybe the Jets are really playing well defensively. It was just always, well, no, they're playing that way because they're playing 100 feet tall because Connor Hellebuyck's behind them and all that kind of stuff. The whole because Connor Hellebuyck argument that I just thought was people turning off their brains and saying Connor Hellebuyck's good. So whatever, if the Jets are succeeding, it's got to have something to do with Connor Hellebuyck. You can't have that this year. You don't have the luxury of the because of Connor Hellebuyck argument, because it only works when he's putting up numbers and it only works when he's winning and the team is doing well. So he doesn't have that, whereas you could put that with Audrey. Yeah, fine, but he's actually doing the things to get them over the line and all that kind of stuff. You can make all those same arguments that you've made for years about Connor Hellebuyck with Jake Ottinger right now, because the team is succeeding. And that's the problem, is with the Jets finding themselves where they were. If it was an outlier, like if Connor Hellebuyck was an outlier, it would say something. But what it says is, as much as the Jets are struggling, so too is Connor Hellebuyck. Hey, want to do this? Want to do this right now? Got a special treat for the audience here. We're going to bring in Jay Bukala because, hey, amateur scouting is a big topic on a lot of Winnipeg Jets fans' minds these days because of the draft and where they find themselves. So we're going to bring in Jay Bukala here, and I'm going to talk to Jay Bukala. Welcome to the show. I wanted to say this. Someone was trying to get the hashtag, I can't remember what the Bedard one was, but people get the cutesy little things about let's fail to get this player. What do you think of Mick Canning for McKenna?
Well, I was, first of all, Happy New Year, guys. Nice to see
Happy
you.
New
Year. Second of all, I was opining with Kenny the other day that as bad as things have gone for the Jets and as downtrodden as it appears, in a weird kind of a way, it might not be bad. And part of the reason I say that is just because they do own their first round draft selection, and they might be able to hit something out of the park with a really high end pick that they haven't had in several years, right, guys? So
yes,
something to consider there. But I don't know. I like your catchphrase. I'm not leaning that way if they win the lottery, though. So I have to tell you that.
There we go. Okay, so let's get
now.
Now
Sean is really happy.
Yeah,
Sean is really happy right now.
Okay, so let's get it quickly out of the way. I had said what I saw from McKenna was a guy who got, I didn't like that his points seemed to me to be a little soft in nature, and then when I was comparing him to Stenberg in that game that got Sweden to the final, just like that dog on a bone quality that you see from guys like Macklin Celebrini, right? We know McKenna's skilled. We know he's smart. We know he's got vision. We know he can put up points. Really good players have that, but the really, really, really good ones who won't be denied have that dog on a bone kind of quality. That's why I landed on, I would take Stenberg first overall if I had that pick. Ken is still sticking with McKenna, which is it's hard to argue the points that he put up over the last couple of years in the WHL. I know there's questions about how things are going in the NCAA. Give us an idea. Maybe just go top 5 and how Jay Bukala would pull off his top 5 at this moment in time.
Well, first of all, I have to say that I'm outside a rink. So for people who can barely see me in my truck as I'm going in to scout a game, this is the life on the tour. But top of the table for me is Ivor Stenberg. You point out some really good points there, Sean. And Renny, the thing about it is you have to have an A game and a B game in the National Hockey League. And I don't need your B game to be exceptionally heavy or full of truculence or anything like that. But you can't be one and done more often than not when you're really engaged against really high-end opponents. I'm talking top pairing D, top checkers from your opponents, stuff like that. I'm not suggesting for 1 second that Gavin McKenna is not going to get his cookies and his apples and all that kind of stuff in the National Hockey League. But let me put it to you guys like this. as you build out your roster and you want to have a team on the hardest day that's going to be able to give you something greater than maybe the sum of their parts between games 1 and 82, would you prefer somebody like a maybe a Mitch Marner at his ceiling? That could be McKenna, okay? And then or would you prefer somebody who could be Nick Suzuki plus at his ceiling? And it's going to be two different types of players, and they're both really good players, right? They just give you something a little bit different in return. McKenna plays the wing, guys, and Stenberg plays the wing too, but Stenberg can play center. McKenna cannot play center. He's not going to check 200 feet. He's not going to do those little things if he's F1 on the back check, never mind the forecheck on the back check. He's going to be a little bit lighter that way, and he's not going to give you the same sort of detail that you require out of that position. So, listen, are we splitting hairs? Absolutely. But I'm also got to include Keaton Bearhoff in this discussion because, historically for me, and I do have a bias when it comes to this, we drafted Aaron Ekblad in Philadelphia eons ago. You guys know as well as I do that big, strong right-handed shot defenseman, 6'4", 215, and they're going to be 230 when they're grown men in the National Hockey League who produce better than secondary offense, and then they can play upwards of 26, 27 minutes a night. Guess what they get? Lots of Benjamins at the end of their contract, and you guys never want to trade those guys away. They're worth their weight in gold. They're really hard to get when you can't acquire them through things like the draft, for example. So, there's a lot to unpack between now and June. But if we were in Buffalo, the three of us today doing this pod, I would be telling you that if the Winnipeg Jets were at the top of the table, you're drafting Stenberg. He can play in all situations. In the semifinal game last week at the World Juniors, 10-minute overtime, 3-on-3. They've got first-round draft picks on their roster. They got a couple of year draft picks for the Winnipeg Jets on the back end there, obviously. These two kids, Vigo Bjork and Stenberg, played 4.5 minutes out of 10 minutes, guys, in an elimination game on the world stage. What does that tell you? It tells you that in high leverage situations, they're trustworthy, that they can elevate to a certain level to be trusted and get a result. And I'm not suggesting that McKenna might not be able to do that. I think he can do that offensively, but even last week, stick on puck, on the half wall, a little bit too much reach, not enough action. And again, I don't need him to knock a guy on his keister, but I need him to be more. And that's how you win, guys, in playoffs. That's just the facts.
Sounds like Sean and I will have to be heading down to Grand Forks at some point here during the next few months. Maybe you'll join us.
Let's all go together. We'll go down to the Taj Mahal that is North Dakota for hockey, for college hockey. It's unbelievable.
Quickly, we get Transcona Pauly curious about Tyne and Lawrence, and what will his move to the NCAA from USHL mean for his stock potentially, Books?
Yeah, curious move for me. I'm not going to sugarcoat this part here. The reason I say it's curious is I'm not so much concerned about the fact that he can't play at the level. I believe he can. There's not going to be any issues there. He'll play at the top of the table at BU. BU's having a kind of a mid-range sort of a season for them. Not great. Maybe this will elevate them, give them an extra little push in the back half of the season. Less games, guys. That's my one take, right? Between now and the end of the year, the runway for him at the BU is going to involve less games than it would have at Muskegon. So, but, having said that, they won it all last year. He was the MVP of the playoffs. Maybe he was ready for a new challenge. When the combine comes around, I will ask him the question because, there's people in our room who are really, they ask they throw the softball over the middle of the plate. I'm more like that, the crusty old character in the corner. So I'm going to ask him straight up, you rehab an injury that you're out half the year or for a good segment of the first half of the year in Muskegon, you rehab, you guys get back in the lineup, you're starting to produce to the best of your identity. They clearly need you to be part of their equation. And then you leave halfway through the season. Take me through that thought process. And I'm not going to hold an 18-year-old kid, supremely accountable for that, but I want to know what goes into these types of thoughts. Why? Because down the road, you're going to have a Dmitry Rashevsky who's like, yeah, I want to be an NHL player. And for people who don't know, he's a Winnipeg Jet prospect playing in Russia, who I got a lot of time for. I want to be an NHL player. And then, you run into some of these character things that you wish you would have known more about previously. And so these are just little questions that I'll ask him later on. But as far as a player, we're talking about a top 8 pick in the draft. It's not rich in centerman this draft class. And he's supremely skilled. So he's going to be right in that mix with the Maholtras of the world to be at the top there.
I want to take you back to your first response, because I love the explanation that you gave of the A game and the B game, and how McKenna's B game is like godly. You know what I mean? But what happens when the chips are on the table and the other guys are at their best? I love that that idea of the A game. Could you give me an idea of what that looks like, or give the audience an idea of what that looks like in some of the past scouting you've done? Like guys, like I'm guessing Celebrini's one of those guys, because I remember you loving Celebrini. Clearly, everybody did. But what does that look like? Who were some of the guys that, when they were getting drafted, you looked and just said, that guy's A game, that's what sets him apart?
Well, I'll give you 3 right off the top. I'm happy to answer these types of questions because they're fun, right? And
yeah,
there are some misses involved in it, but the guys that are at the top of the draft class in recent years, let's start with Celebrini. So Celebrini, right out of the chute at the college hockey level, you guys see what he does on the National Hockey League level. He was that same player in Chicago with the Steel, and he was that same player at the college level. Skilled guys who play with tenacity, with the puck on their stick, like they really want to produce offense. But at times turn the puck over. We've all seen those skill guys who have that little pause in their game. Hey guys, when you turn a puck over 5 feet inside the offensive blue line, and there's, I'm not going to call it a sulk, but that hunch of the shoulders for a second. Oh, shucks, and that half second that you miss on a zone exit, an offensive zone exit, to get back on your horse to track back defensively to kill a play, that half second at the NHL is an eternity. It really is. That's the puck in the back of your net, isn't it? So look at your game today. Look where the Jets are scoring their goals today, right out front of the net in the dirty areas. If you're a half second late on the back check to defend the Jets in that area, the puck's in the net. Now, it was in the net anyways today, but you understand what I'm trying to say. When Celebrini would turn something over, he was always tenacious, always on his horse. 200-foot game. 200-foot game, relentless competitor. So I always go back to my 3 staples, and then I kind of, everything falls into place after that. So before I get to my next 2 players, I hope you guys are okay with me spitballing.
Oh, we love this. This is what it's for.
So you got to be able to play at NHL pace. You got to be able to think the game at the NHL level, but you have to be a relentless competitor on your worst days, because you're not going to score every day. So you better be relentless. Relentless compete is a choice. We all, even on a tour, like when we're doing our jobs right now, where there's going to be planes that are late. There's going to be me waiting out front of an arena to go into a game right now. Like we always have different things going on, but we have a choice, don't we? Let's show up and get the job done to the best of our ability. So you better knock off those 3 boxes, because if you don't, nothing else matters. Your skill will never rise to the occasion. Nothing else matters. Celebrini not only knocked those 3 off, then his skill and everything else rises to the occasion. Cooley, when he was drafted in the Montreal draft to Utah, 4th overall several years ago, I really felt that his B game was better than adequate. So I call it a B plus B game, if you will. Not A, but B plus B game. Supremely competitive. And I could see that his trajectory as well was going to give me that comfort level that on his worst days, he's going to do enough off the puck. And I had him number 1 on my draft list that year to go number 1.
Smart man.
Because of a variety of things. I really trusted his skill, but I thought there was enough there. Now, if we go beyond that, the Connor Bedards of the world, there were some holes defensively, but you could see that his care, his give a meter was on level, but you were going to sacrifice things. So I would have called him average defensively, but his offense wins out in that situation. So let me digress. When I get to McKenna, his defensive game has tracked about, I would say, 25% better at the college level than it was when I saw him live and on video in the first quarter of the season. But even at the World Juniors, guys, the puck is followed by the TV. Like the TV, you see the puck, right? But you don't see everything that's going on in the ice surface off the puck. And off the puck, there was not enough action. There wasn't enough. And that's why he's got to show me more of that in the back half of the season here.
Also, quickly for the Manitoba folks here, Carson Carroll's one of the risers, Books. I know he didn't get a ton of ice time at the World Juniors, but what do you like about his game?
Well, Carson's he's a horse. First of all, skates. He's heavy. He's it's never an easy out defensively with him, and then he can transport offensively. So he can at the World Juniors, guys. If you guys, everybody watched it, I'm sure, but like they really, for the younger guys, tried to dummy things down, and it was more like chips into the neutral zone, windows and off the glass, off the boards, whatever. A lot of flips, a lot of that. And that's not really how Carson plays. Actually, it's not at all how Carson plays the game, or Keaton Bearhoff for that matter. Two-way defenseman, better than secondary offense, physical. And we've already had a chance to interview him and get to know him. This kid's put together. Like, he's a pro already, so he's gonna, between the years, you're not gonna have to wind this guy up. He's a farm kid, and he likes to get after it.
Yeah, he was the defense partner of my boy Benson Hurst at the Pilot Mound Academy, and that's what he'd said. He stayed home and went to that Pilot Mound Academy, which would not be one of the more prestigious schools in that academy system, but he did sort of stay at home so he could farm with the parents. One of those kind of kids, right? So great stuff, Ken. I'm all good if you are here. I think
no, I just want to get a. Well, we got to get a couple of the comments on the suite. You mentioned Sasha Boumediene and Alphonse Frey. What did you see from them at the event?
Okay, so Alphonse Frey. Well, first of all, you guys both know they're exceptional skaters, right? They're outstanding feet. Frey, 2AD. He's not going to bring you very much offense, but what he's going to do is he's going to track it. When a puck gets chipped in past his shoulder, if he's pivoting either way, his continuation pace to go get a puck, guys, he doesn't break stride. There's some guys even in our league who break stride. They lose a little bit, and then you're under duress, right? He doesn't do that. His speed will allow him to get to the puck. He's going to move the puck. He's not going to be on the power play, but he's going to be on the penalty kill to take away space. He won't be really super physical or anything like that, but it's 2AD, great feet, super competitive, trustworthy. Boumediene, he's interesting because he teases me with a more offensive upside. I think it's in there. But he reminds me a little bit of Mike Matheson when we drafted him in Florida years ago, where I love the feet. I love where he can get all over the ice. Sometimes I'm not so sure that the brain is catching up to the feet to execute a puck play. And I'm hoping that continues to evolve. He's thrust into all those situations at the college level and on the world stage right now. So he's evolving. But worst case scenario, just a 2AD, similar to Frege. That would be your worst case scenario. But I think your best case scenario is secondary offense, and maybe even a guy that can work a power play. And because he's so agile, like walk the offensive blue line to open up passing and shooting lanes. We'll see.
Books, because Ken's getting greedy with your time, I'm going to ask one more just because I'm fascinated with.
I've got 7 more minutes here before I go inside. This is great.
I'm fascinated by your process, and I wonder when you're watching a World Juniors like this. I know you're going in depth, so there's probably not too many surprises for you, but you hear stuff like Michael Haig comes out of this as a big winner, and I'm sure Montreal is really happy what they're seeing from him. But are there any guys in that tournament that had the kind of tournament that they popped so much that they may have, gotten further ahead of where you thought they'd be at this process, or maybe changed the way that you think about them and you think are guys we should be watching out for entering the NHL?
Oh boy, yeah, there was quite a few, to be honest with you. Chihar, the captain, or Wojtek Chihar from Czechia, who won MVP of the tournament. He was outstanding.
Unbelievable.
Now, listen, to a man, the team Czechia, to a man, were the most fun team to watch in the tournament for me, and they never strayed from their identity. That group of kids played like their hair was on fire every single shift, and it was one of those things, Renny, where you could see the camaraderie on that bench, where the next guy up didn't want to let the guy beside him down. When you get those types of teams. So he was right at the top of the table for me that way. I thought Adam Novotny, who's a draft eligible for this draft class, he elevated as a tournament went along, and it is a little bit of scout speed because his results offensively don't pop like some of the other guys, but he's a heavy, hard guy in the trenches. And it's going to be one of those situations where he's already given me his compete. I can see how he can rip the pill here in the Ontario League. He's going to be better off for this experience. But I want to stick with the Czechs because I love them so much. But this Thomas Galvis, I don't know if you guys notice him or not.
Yes.
Little defense.
Small guy. Yeah.
5'10", $172. He's gone through the draft twice. Okay. Yeah. And we all know why, because he's undersized. So he had to prove to us people in the scouting community that he can handle, leverage properly defensively, not be an easy out on the defensive side of the puck. Boy, oh boy, he did that. And then on the offensive blue line, dynamic. He always had the puck. He was making plays all over the place. So that was good. But Vigo Bjork, let's keep an eye on that name. I know the Jets only have 1 first-round pick right now, and I don't know that they're going to make a move to acquire another one. I don't have a crystal ball here, okay? As we go further into the season, I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm going to run this next 10-game segment with the Jets to kind of figure out exactly what's going to be the game plan, a better game plan going forward, if you will. But if they were ever able to do something to get another first-round pick and get creative somehow and start to stick their fishing rod in the Vigo Bjork waters on top of someone like Stenberg, boy, oh boy, was he ever good. Like, he's an sort of undersized right shot guy, plays the middle, plays pro in the SHL as well. Can you envision having those two guys on your roster going forward? Compete, skill, kill penalties, take over games offensively. Keep an eye on Vigo Bork. He's a huge riser in the draft.
Books, you talked about the OHL. What will the change of scenery mean for Kevin He and Kieran Walton going to Saginaw and Peterborough respectively here as the trade deadline is passed at the junior level also?
Yeah, Kieran Walton's an interesting one because he's playing in Sudbury with the Wolves, and they were, having a less than stellar season. Let's just put it to you that way. And there was some reservations, I think, about him wanting to be there at the beginning, anyways. And it's going to be good for him. I think the change of scenery for both these guys. I don't see it affecting He the same way. I think Walton, because he's a different sort of player than He. You guys have seen him at training camp. He's a darting, smaller kind of a skill guy, and Walton's a bigger body. I think a change of scenery is good for both those players, to be perfectly honest. Different. I don't want to throw any organizations under the bus, but two organizations that are transitioning a bit, and now they go into other situations that are more stable. It should be good for their kind of trajectory here in the short order. But He is an interesting player because guys like that, like, when they go out when they get to the NHL, they can really impact your lineup with their speed and their skill and everything. I'm curious to see how his trajectory kind of evolves here, because the Jets need that, don't they, guys? Lambert's been slow to come, and they need that to arrive here sooner than later.
Book's issue boy Bruce nails us here when he says, Book's hitting us with missile after missile. You absolutely wrecked us with that analysis. Great stuff as always. We know you got to go. Always appreciate your time. Always love having you. And I love that idea. If you're coming into UND to go check out Keaton Verhoff, Kenny,
we're in.
I think we should get away.
I'll drive. Let me know when your flight is. I'll drive.
You know what? I'll come to Winnipeg. We'll drive down, and we can just tell stories all the way. We'll hot stove it all the way. That'd be awesome. So
perfect.
I'll look you guys up.
Good stuff.
Have fun tonight. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
See you, Books. Happy New Year. Bye-bye. Okay, we should start closing this out. I thought that was great stuff. And you know what? I love that he led with the check, and I know he was the tournament MVP. But for me, Ken, beyond being the MVP, beyond the performance, that game against Canada where the Czechs knock off Canada to go to the final, Canada has just tied it up. And he just does the power move around, I think it's Bo Atchison, and goes in and just takes over the game and pops it in the back of the net like that there. It's one of the things that I saw from Stenberg was a little more of that kind of play. But boy, oh boy, that play to me was like the play of the tournament. And like to go do that against Canada, like Canada of all countries, against one of their bigger, tougher defensemen. And just, that was a man amongst boys. He absolutely nailed that. And give us a good idea of the guys who are, well, I love his attitude that you have to be able to like score. Well, like you have to be dogged to score at the NHL level, and he's picking out the guys who are dogged. You don't have to be dogged to score a great rate with Cambrian Credit Union. It's easy. Getting a mortgage doesn't have to throw you off your game. While you focus on home sweet home, our friends at Team Cambrian Credit Union take care of the mortgage part with their low rates. Whether you're looking for a new home, renewing, or making the switch, Cambrian is your mortgage MVP. They can help make the next season of your mortgage path easier and help save you money. Now that is what we call a win. Head to cambrian.mb.ca/rates for more, or head on down to your local location like I'm about to do to go re-up my mortgage. Ken, why don't you give Sweet Lou a shout out?
You bet. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferland at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferland.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferland, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast.
And let me just point out how lucky we are to have Books come in here and knock it out of the park. He always would take us all around that tournament and everything you needed to know about it. Just like Myers Drugs will take your business all around the city because they deliver anywhere in the city. So if you have any pharmaceutical needs, any health food needs or supplement needs, check out the folks at Myers. They'll come to you, or you can go to them. Okay, Ken, Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. What do you got? I think I kind of gave mine up earlier on.
You can have it. I'm going
Well,
Matty Prefontaine is my choice here.
there you
I know
go.
it may seem obvious to some, but we know that Connor Hellebuyck gets quite animated when things happen and he thinks a goalie interference should be called. But, the Jets had one that they thought was going their way on Friday night. It was kind of a 50-50. They also strongly considered challenging the Heischer goal because there was a skate click between Hellebuyck and Jack Hughes. But after a lengthy delay, they decided against it. But then they pulled the trigger on challenging the Siegenthaler one when Paul Cotter kind of bumped into Hellebuyck and prevented him from resetting. So I'm going with a Matt Prefontaine special on the video review here on the Coaches Challenge.
Well, Maddie deserves his flowers, so let's just go with that. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? You need to look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And that is the Kenny and Renny OGs, the Johnson Group. Got you covered play of the game, and brings us to our hashtag, the keg save of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, honorable mention. I mean, I mentioned the play earlier just because of the obscurity of the play. The Jake Allen covering Niederreiter and preventing the goal is my honorable mention. But Hellebuyck makes a really good save off of Jack Hughes in the second period. That to me was sort of indicative that he was a little bit sharper here in this one here in a game that the Jets needed him to be sharp.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just that the Tanner Pearson one, just because of the importance of it, the timing of it, but beyond all that, just the idea of how I love the way that the Jets were engaging up ice at that moment. There was a play after that, not long after that Dylan Sandberg jumps into the play, and it's just, you can see it at that point of the game. They're just going, right. They're just absolutely rocking it in jumping into the play, and that's 5-man hockey, right? And I thought they did a good job of isolating the New Jersey Devils in that situation, being like everybody on board at that time. So for me, that is the hashtag. Sorry, what am I doing? I just totally.
You went back to Johnson Group there.
Not the got covered. I went way back to the lamplighter of the game.
Indeed.
There. Hey,
I didn't want to interrupt you.
So I was on a roll regardless. Anyway, that's Ken's hashtag, the keg save of the game. I avoided my opportunity to do so. But you shouldn't do that. You should share with us your hashtag, the keg save of the game. You'll automatically be entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And the winner from our last podcast, that would be Dane. Dane, you know what to do. Direct message me like you did with your hashtag, the keg save of the game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate. You need to email. I'm blowing this at the end here, Ken. I can barely get through.
You're at the end of your travel meter here. Don't worry. We're almost done.
Okay, focus. Dane, send me a message, full name, email. I'll have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. I can't even read that. I don't think I want to read it. Ken's laughing too.
Tell me you traveled all day without telling me.
There you go.
Snackatoba sending you a special message.
All right, well, it's going to get weird next time, because the next one of these I'm going to be in New York. Ken, you're going to have to hold down the fort here at home. So that's where I'm going to be next time. Hopefully I'll be better prepared to handle the rigors of live podcasting at that time. But I gave it my best shot. If you appreciate the best shot that we gave and the awesome analysis by our guy Books and Kenny rocking it as he always does, you know what to do. You just need to appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space for us. That's Jim Patterson Toyota on Regent, Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, Flame and Comfort, Myers Drugs, the Kenny and Renny OGs at the Johnson Group, and of course the fine folks at the Keg. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. I'm going to land this plane before I crash it. We'll see you on Tuesday when we do it all over again. Bye-bye.